So good afternoon. Good afternoon, dear participants of today's event and those watching us in stream, staying afar. So I welcome you at Ukraine Crisis Media Center in the center of Kyiv, where we have in the capital of the country which is now struggling for its freedom and European security. And Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. Today we celebrate our 10th anniversary. It's our 10th birthday. It was established in very turbulent times back then when the Russian aggression against Ukraine was initiated. This was actually the key reason for us to establish the center on March 5th, 10 years ago, right on this day. We with a group of enthusiasts, let's say, we did it. Enthusiasts who back then realized that war has already started, that Russian occupiers were already present in Crimea, and there was a huge wave of propaganda and misinformation. You remember all those green guys from Putin, the wave of lies the Russian president was introducing for so many years, but we knew what was happening, yeah? So that's why we've established the center. When these activists since that time has become more active, more professional. They managed to develop their professionalism. They operate in many organizations like Andriy Shevchenko's organization, for example, Media Center called Ukraine, and other organizations. We all became wiser. But back then, it was a very proper response to Russian invasion, and we were here when we had Maidan, and when there were so many people standing here in this place. Revolution of Dignity was there. So within this turbulent time, we started our way. So I'm so grateful to everyone. I will not give all the names because within these years, dozens, hundreds of people already helped us who now have take very important positions and who are the leaders of organizations and CSOs and lead the state agencies who are very prominent both in Ukraine and abroad. And I'm grateful to them, to their inspiration and motivation, which generated this successful project. And I'm really grateful to those who helped us to reach that success, promoted this. I remember back then, this idea was like floating in the air, but without the support, it may sound strange, without the support of the state Affairs Management Office and Presidential Office, they actually gave us permission to first work in Ukraina Hotel without the support, without funding. Well, Ukrainian businessmen later supported this idea. And those who, since March 5th, since the very first days, we had all the politicians here, by the way, foreign politicians. We had State Secretary of the US coming and leaders of British MFA and many other countries and all the representatives from the embassies here. I welcome you, all of your colleagues. They visited the center. So one of these years, I can just say big thank you to this for this great support and staunch support given by international partners. And you still do support us, support this initiative, civic independent initiative. And I'll just finish with that. I'd like to say thank you to my colleagues, who did and who are still doing everything they can for us to be still effective at this new stage of Russia's invasion, of the stage of war, the full-scale war, for us to stay active and to operate actively to combat misinformation, Russian propaganda, to bust the myths and fakes, to launch the analytical projects which help us to defend the country. And I do think that this activity that maybe 10 years ago we thought it would be like temporary, someone still is criticizing the word crisis in the title. Well, it all emerged during the crisis, and unfortunately the war left a big deep crisis in Ukraine, but definitely we'll have the times of victory in our country, and we'll go back to our usual title, Ukrainian Media Center. So we are at war still, and there's so many of our colleagues are in the front line. Someone is staying abroad, and like Ivana Klimpushtin-Sadze, she's the member of board as well. She's giving speeches. Natalka Popovich, who organized in Denmark this Ukrainian house, and she is there right now. Hennady Kurochka, he's actively supporting the communication sector. Today within the military, and we delegated also our colleagues to armed forces. But to everyone who hasn't mentioned, my big gratitude to you, ladies and gentlemen, because as the head of board, I've understood since the very beginning the equipment, the premise, the funding, but people are important, are the most important. Their mood, their motivation, the wish to act professionally, and the idea that united us is really relevant. Free, independent European Ukraine, which will be the part of the EU NATO, and we're paving the way, and I'm pretty sure that all together we'll achieve the goal. I'm grateful to everyone, those in the room and those listening and watching to us on the stream, and big thank you to those politicians and experts and diplomats, all of those people and businessmen, of course, and representatives of foreign diplomatic missions and our international partners, all of those who support the center. And today we decided in this format, during the war, we decided, let's say, like celebrate, but also make a gift to you. And what we can do as a gift, just expressing our gratitude to international partners. That was materialized in a set of those videos. You've seen those for each of the country that supported us. Within a month, we've made over 25 of those small videos with the words of gratitude. And then we thought, like, okay, let's just have, let's show how generous we are, and let's make another gift. Have Ukrainians actually perceive that support? Figures and perception are different things. So we decided to introduce today a project, a rating, a results of the rating for partnering states and international leaders assisting Ukraine. And I'm coming to this part already of this event, and I'm grateful. I am grateful. Well, first of all, thank you, dear colleagues, for doing that huge work. And today we'll introduce just a part of it. Expert survey. Later we will publish and introduce the other elements. There are many elements in the project, but today we have the expert survey. Okay, I'm welcoming people here who took part in expert survey as respondents, and who have been our friends for so many years, for ages. They've been here on the stage, of course, in Ukraine hotel premise, or maybe they even supported us abroad. So, Andriy Shevchenko, head of the mission of the Ukrainians Congress in Ukraine, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary in Canada, and I guess you've you know his background. I guess for him the such ratings are pretty typical, just a routine thing, but maybe we'll hear something about the foreign perspective. So, Ambassador of Ukraine, ex-Ambassador of Ukraine in Singapore, Pavlo Sultanskyi. It was so interesting to hear, to get the opinion, get his opinion. Maybe something we don't see in Europe. And his experience of being an ambassador in many Asian countries maybe will add some patterns and nuances, because I should tell you, like such countries as Pakistan, in the expert rating was not introduced to some other, like some other countries, but still we knew what type of support was present, like South Korea, and maybe this will be one of the elements for discussion. Also, I'm welcoming Oleksandr. He is a diplomat. Today, he is a member of the Defense Strategy Center. Some comments from Oleksandr were really valuable. So he gave comments on the foreign security situation. So in this block, I do hope I'll get your comments, and we'll speak of the Miltech component also. Viktor Shinchak, head of board of CSO, Institute of Global Policy. Well, the name speaks for itself, but for me it's really important. Well, Viktor, thank you so much for accepting this invitation. I would say that Viktor sometimes is looking at all that with... He generates some interesting ideas, you know, and maybe his previous background and the knowledge of internal situation, deep knowledge, allows him to give very professional comments. Okay. So I think I should stop at this specific place, and we're coming to the rating introduction of the results, and I'd like to pass the floor to the head of analytical group for hybrid threats in UCMC, Volodymyr Solovyanov. So we have colleagues who were working in the group. My big gratitude to you. And we did it all together. This is our joint work with our center colleagues, and today we have an opportunity actually to hear some interesting results of this expert survey. Please, Volodymyr. Thank you so much, Valeriy Alexievich, for this honor, for this opportunity to introduce the results of the rating for partnering states and international leaders assisting Ukraine. So the expert survey was carried out during February 13th, 21st of 2024 with questionnaires. 50 prominent Ukrainian experts on international relations, security and economics, namely diplomats, academia and journalists, they took part as respondents. So, top 10 states were offered to be introduced in 4 categories. Those which assisted us during 2022-2024, starting from February 24th, 2022. Top 5 also of foreign supporters were marked, who, based on the opinion of Ukrainian society, helped us in the most effective way to overcome Russian aggression. So what was the aim of this rating? For our experts, Ukrainian experts, to evaluate the level of support from selected countries and specific supporters within this period. We should note that in the survey, we took into account the dynamics, the importance of the support and assistance that partnering states were providing to Ukraine. Also, initiatives from specific countries and the continuity of support. And basically, that is the uniqueness, that is what the uniqueness of the survey is, because the results of the rating will not necessarily comply with some numerical indicators or parameters, but these do reflect the perception of Ukrainian expert community, the level of support from partnering states. We also should note the relevance of this survey, because in our group's opinion, there is such an opinion, and these opinions do circulate in expert community. Today, we are in this bifurcation point where the focus of support is shifting from the US and towards, I guess, Europe. Europe is becoming more active in that sense. I should also note with the survey that we also evaluated the contribution of EU, NATO, UN, and IMF as organizations, but this support was included at the level of bilateral assistance. So we took into account that support that is sent from partnering states via international organizations. Also, expert evaluation was based on public data. We should note that. And the factor that should be considered is the transparency and openness of the data. that are published in terms of sectoral support. Speaking of the categories of support, we divided these into four, with 4 ratings. Miltech and other security assistance. Then we have political and diplomatic, financial, economic, also humanitarian and IDP support. So based on the results of expert survey in each category, we had separately identified top 10 states based on their rating, based on their scores. So you can see it on the slide. The first block, Miltech and other security assistance. We can see that experts identified first the US. Of course, we understand that US is the leader when we speak of the volume of Miltech support. As of now, approximately $42 billion already allocated. And we can assume that experts are cautiously optimistic, speaking of another iteration of the support from the US. Then we have United Kingdom. It's an interesting thing because studying, if we study the numerical indicators, the financial equivalent of the support, Germany should have taken the second position in that terms. But what played the big role? Britain was actually a pioneer in establishing support to Ukraine in numerous coalitions, tank coalition, let's say. We had Great Britain was the first to provide the missiles, and there are certain initiatives for UAVs provision. Therefore, United Kingdom took second place, and I also should note the contribution of Germany, in particular with the air defense systems that were provided. And in the when it comes to the shift of the paradigm that we've seen within these 2 years, Poland also is their top position, which is not surprising because Warsaw, within the first months of war, provided a lot of armored vehicles and other equipment that helped our armed forces in the most difficult times in spring 2022. Also, if we analyze the rest of the countries that are in top 10 when it comes to Miltech sector, we should know that we have those countries here which, let's say, are the backbone of F-16 coalition. Also, our experts evaluate quite highly the opportunity and the probability and importance of the support that will be provided by the Netherlands, Denmark, Norway. We speak of aircrafts right now. And separately, we should mention Lithuania and its role, which is one of the leaders on the percentage ratio, ratio of GDP to volume of support provided to Ukraine. And just to finish with this block, in each of the ratings, we were selecting those countries which got a little bit lower scores, lower than the 10th one, but are quite close to those indicators. So we also added these countries to our rating, and we actually can see that experts highly evaluate the Miltech support from Canada, Latvia, and Czech Republic. So when it comes to political and diplomatic support, well, the first violin is given to United Kingdom in the opinion of Ukrainian experts, and we can say that here the substantial role was played by, of course, Boris Johnson's personality. There was a huge impact. For the US, the key role was given to the US in terms of establishing the national coalition to support Ukraine, and this role is still kept by the US. It's reflected in the rating as well, and an interesting moment is there that experts evaluated the support from the countries within these 2 years. So, for example, the difficult situation that we had at Polish-Ukrainian border since autumn 2023 did not affect basically the evaluation of support in political and diplomatic area from the Polish side. And I'd like also to note that all the Baltic states are here in this top list, and Many of those countries we have, which got some nice scores from the experts, but we didn't put them in top 10. They're on the list of the countries that experts highly evaluated. Denmark, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, and Sweden. So the next block, humanitarian and IDP support. So the first place and second and third given to countries which hosted the vast majority of our refugees after February 24th and provided due support. And I should note here that huge support from Baltic states also was duly evaluated. Therefore, I guess this is the gratitude from the expert community to the countries, to these countries, that provided unprecedented moral, financial, technical support to Ukrainians who had to flee, who had to leave their homes due to Russian aggression. And our nice bonus, top 5 of foreign supporters. And this rating, experts were not limited, let's say, to the list of certain names, of certain areas or sectors the leaders are operating in. And in this rating, we can see that who is the leader? Boris Johnson. And in top 3, we have Joseph Biden next to him, Ursula von der Leyen. And also in top 5, we have Andrzej Duda and Olaf Scholz. I should separately mention that in general, in our rating, we had 30 names, the rating of subjects. And in our brochures that we will give to you today, after the event is finished, you can find more details there, because maybe someone is interested, or maybe it's not very clear on the screen who other 25 people are on that list. The leaders of organizations or states, those who are highly evaluated by Ukrainian expert community. So, 50 prominent Ukrainian experts took part in this survey, and I would like to express my gratitude to everyone, each and every of you, for participation and for supporting the project. Thank you so much. Thank you, Volodymyr. Thank you. And I think that you've heard of the methodology. I'd like to stress on this specifically, that this is the perception again, okay? The perception is not equal to the data that we have coming from various projects, like there's a whole tracker that is used by this university, and we've seen France, for example, like recently before the visit of Emmanuel Macron, like showed all the support and the statistics, the Miltech support, US, Germany as well. But there are such nuances that you won't be able to analyze more thoroughly without experts, without professional experts who actually show us how this is perceived in Ukraine. Not everything is published. Secondly, let's be open, okay? Not all of those figures, especially for the Miltech support, not everything is published, and this is taken into account as well. It's so important. When exactly does this support come? Because when you have statistics on the paper and when we have this support at the front line in the number of vehicles or equipment, it's different, okay? If we speak about Miltech. If we speak about economy, some nuances were considered, like the money that already are allocated, but still not transferred to Ukraine, still are not in Ukraine. I think that this experts survey, you can see the list of people taking part as respondents. I can tell you that this is truly, these are truly experts of various areas, not just foreign policy, maybe energy sector, or economics, or other areas as well. And maybe this can be quite an individual opinion, but basically we can take this rating very seriously. Especially our international partners can do it. like from the standpoint of how it's actually taking place, like what's happening in the world, because this is how it's reflected in Ukraine. So if we have if there's an opportunity, we'd like to mention these countries. Andrea, as a former Canadian ambassador, will say that Canada should take a little higher position. I have no doubts about it. But we also have this public introduction concept. Is it always necessary? I'm not sure. But still, maybe this is like an advice to communication people, to PR people in our partnering states. Okay. It would be interesting to hear just not about the rating methodology, and Volodymyr did not show us the financial block. It was very fast, maybe. It wasn't just very fast. He gave us a chance. I can show you, but it's late. Yeah. You have to do it on due in timely manner. Okay, this must be some. Yeah, you saved us some time, so I'd like our experts from energy sector. Volodymyr Marchenko, Razumkov Center. He is leading the energy program. And Mihailo Honchar. Thank you for staying with us today. Please, later just comment, okay? Comment on energy system resilience. We didn't take it here, by the way. It might be not in the rating, at least your impression, maybe. Give us your impression if it's like, if the support was provided in timely manner, if it did help. Please, I would like to get it from you in the very end, okay? And now, as we introduced, you will understand us. Why do we start from the Miltech? You will. Because when we are sitting here right now, in many places we have struggles, we have hostilities in eastern and southern front lines, and it's obvious that the Miltech support issue itself and cybersecurity and other security issues, it's the key, it's the priority. Therefore, let me start with this. And Alexander, please. Alexander, would you comment on that part, okay, on this block? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, first of all, it's so nice to stay in this company, in this stage. And when I saw the list of experts, where the respondents, well, I guess this is the dream team, the most prominent experts that we have in all the blocks, for all the policies. That's why the survey has high quality per se, but yeah. It's a pretty simple one. It gives the very first impression of feeling, like what Ukrainians do feel. It was hard to pick the countries in the rating because there are different parameters. For example, if we take the absolute numbers, so yes, we have the US, we have the monsters, you know, when we speak of the size and this support is growing, but we have small countries as well, like Estonia. If we speak about the GDP ratio, they give much, much more than these big industrial countries like Poland, which was critically important within the first days, and all the limitations and everything was cancelled, and Polish, like, people were standing shoulder to shoulder. They did provide that support, like they were taking part in the war as well. For other countries, it's important for Ukraine to have positive result and to have peace in Europe, and for the enemy to be punished, of course. So it was really hard to select, I would tell you. So the second moment, and you know, we have to put it like in a broader context. In February, we marked the 10th anniversary since the Russian invasion in Crimea. I just want to remind you that back then in 2014, our Western partners did not understand that this is not just a sort of a misunderstanding, separatism, territorial dispute. This was already the war against Europe and the global order. And finally, now even the old Europe is already using our narratives that we had back then. When I was giving when the President Poroshenko was giving speech to both chambers in US, he said, "I cannot use sheets to defend my country." He had the wave of applause, but nobody gave him weapons. In Germany, in the US, in France, nobody. They didn't think that. They thought there was no need to escalate, that Ukraine was not that important and Russia is a nuclear state. It can escalate. We can do nothing. It was the narrative. And these previous administrations became victims of what we called reflective control. And someone is still in that trap, yeah? And they're used. And in all dimensions, these countries are still much more powerful than Russia. But anyway, they're afraid. Situation changed later. And if we see what's happening in the US administration, there was no embargo that we had on us, but de facto this embargo was there. Back then it was McMaster, Bolton, Mattis, so those powerful Republicans in the administration, they understood what the threat was from Russia and they started supplying us with weapons. So also, I forgot to mention United Kingdom in 2014, 2015. They were the first from the old Europe. Well, Eastern Europe always understood the threat from Russian society and the country. It's not, it's really political correct to say that 140 million, this is the empire of evil. These are the supporters of fascist ideology, because Russia is a fascist country. In 2014, 2015, the United Kingdom understood the threat. They defined Black Sea as the priority for their own interest. They started changing their strategic documents, started helping Ukraine. The operation that gave a chance to train thousands of Ukrainian military. It was really useful back then after 2014 and of course in 2022.
Дуже непогано знаю.
I know very well how we tried at the full-scale invasion 2 years ago. We tried to fight the barriers, American barriers in particular, where we spoke of the types of the weapons and volumes of supply that we needed and still need. At first, it was success with specific items. Then we started equipping the units, not just giving specific number of, let's say, rifles. Then we came to a high level, what we call a capability based, yeah? So we needed certain capacity that included a whole list of ammo, equipment, and weapons. And then we were directing ourselves to mission-based approach when we had a specific number of units fully equipped, interoperable to perform certain tasks. And this process was taking place, so we had certain positive shifts in battlefields. We had diplomacy, open diplomacy, not behind the closed doors, and we were fighting these internal barriers. The most tenacious thing is mentality. It's important to change strategies and change the mentality. Still in Europe, we have some misunderstanding when it comes to the importance of what is happening now. The strategic framework that was forcefully brought to us, it's still there. They think that first we give enough of weapon, Ukraine will use it, and then we will shift to diplomacy. In history, which genocidal conflict, let's say, can be solved diplomatically? Maybe I forgot something, but it can be, I think. When we evaluate current condition and certain perspective, we have to go beyond this no escalation concept. Some weapon with controlled escalation for Ukrainians to reach something, but not to provoke two things. And again, this is really interesting because Russia is a schizophrenic country in this sense. It's the most powerful in their understanding, but also the most vulnerable. So they attacked us because we were threatening them, yeah, as they say. On the other hand, they are a nuclear country, they can do anything. So this dichotomy is in the heads of our Western partners. Not giving a chance for Russia to split into parts after the nuclear threat and keep it from any nuclear attack. So this is what we have. It's also very important, and again, I'll remember of United Kingdom, the Black Sea. Everyone is focused on something that we have on land, but without an opportunity to ensure the domination in air, you know, the reasons why we couldn't reach the big goals in last year's campaign. With asymmetric war, we managed, well, with a small support from Western partners, we got this advantage, huge advantage. And I do hope that we will destroy the Black Sea fleet. This will be the contribution in our security and security in the Black Sea region. So, speaking of United Kingdom, the first Storm Shadow missiles were... The aim was to defeat Russian Crimea, to take Crimea out of their hands, let's say. And I'm pretty sure that our victory depends on Crimea, not through liberation of land like Donetsk, Luhansk, but it's the Crimea which is the crucial problem. Therefore, no compromises can be there when it comes to... we can't put it behind the brackets or give some temporary status for Russia to withdraw the forces and something like it. So Crimea is the key thing. And all the weapons provided to us, these were really valuable, this context. You are just... Yeah, we have diplomats who want to speak. Okay. My big thank you to Germany, of course, because Germany, starting from helmets, which could trigger the Third World War, now it shifted to the position of the biggest supplier of various ammo, and they are ready to perform this task for quite a long time because they realized they made mistakes. If previously they ignored our interests and Eastern and Central Europe, they are trying to get rid of this Kremlin perspective right now. We would love them to spend more on defense sector and to strengthen their capacity. We know their problems. Germany is an important factor, and I do hope that those agreements we already are signing now, in fact, we are legitimizing the support that we already have on paper, and it's clear what will be provided by the partners. All these commitments, the contribution will not... it's important to keep that contribution on the same level, regardless of what's happening in the front line, okay? So it's important for the long-term perspective. And those countries which are ready to help us with their commitments, not only in this war, but in future, to restrain Russia, we have to mark them as the biggest supporters, and we are very grateful. Thank you. Thank you. A big introductory word we had from Alexander. Okay. I just want to say this. Maybe it's a special day, so we need to give just the truth. Everybody's writing books like in the US as well, and I want to just clarify the situation. The first lethal, as was mentioned back then, the first lethal weapon, it was so important, and it was an important element. It wasn't only from the US, it was from different countries, given by different countries. They were not ready back then to provide us lethal. Why lethal, I don't know. Lithuania was the first one to give us lethal weapons, okay? As they call it, lethal, and I just have to mention it. So, second, the US. I remember that very well, yeah? And this breakthrough in anti-tank weapons supply, this was a big decision. But this decision was made not only thanks to our friends who understood the situation, not only the McMaster, the advisor, and I remember that meeting where it happened and how it happened. So we just have to realize Donald Trump made that decision at the meeting. Okay, so this is the presidential meeting, without this single approach, communication, political, foreign policy from our management, from the Prime Minister, from intelligence heads and presidents and ambassadors who are then in different countries of the world, there would be no that decision. It could not even happen back then without that. And I just want to tell you again, at that moment, certain things were supplied, counter-sniper weapons that Ukraine was purchasing. This gave us a chance to talk to Donald Trump. Having a very advantageous position back then in negotiations. So this is an example for us. How can Ukrainian consolidated position with partner support can give us some good results. So I'd like this example now to be taken by our current authorities. Another thing. It was really hard to convince the US and some other states in these forecasts, that we had. I assure you, Ukrainians gave the most correct forecasts on the evolution of the situation. Regardless of the supercomputers' capacity in the US, that I've seen those results, not even mentioning those analytical intelligence capacities, global, Ukrainians gave the most accurate ones. Speaking of Russia, I mean, Russian aggression against Ukraine. I just want to mention that back then we had Japan. For me, that was surprising. I had some personal discussions, and they gave very accurate forecasts that Crimea will be seized. Okay, I will not tell you everything, but you have to listen to your partners. You have to listen and hear your partners and how it's perceived beyond, and you have to cooperate with partners, even if it's not obvious instantly that this is necessary. Vice President Joseph Biden, back then he was vice president, now he's a president. He was much more bolder and braver. He was acting bolder than Barack Obama, the former president, and I had a personal discussion with him on that. And unfortunately, my arguments, my opinions, my logical arguments, he did not perceive it properly. I think Barack Obama, of course, as US president, was so surprised when in 2014, for the first time, we showed a request for Miltech supplies. He was very surprised when Russia only started occupying the parts of Ukraine. But still, even he agreed to do so many things which are still not public. And I will not publish it as well today. I will not disclose that. So, the Miltech bloc is the result, the joint result. And those states who came to Washington and helped us to lobby that, I know I know names of each of those. And in that list, extended list, these people are there. They are taking some important positions in their countries. It's so good that we mention that history, but we will not steal time from Mr. Sultanskyi. And please, I pass the floor to you. So, with the elements that were not reflected, the Asian part, okay? When we speak of diplomacy, all right? Thank you so much, Valeriy. Thank you. Just briefly, all right? Not to steal time. I'll just read from my notes. Because when I was offered to give a speech, to give my comments on political and diplomatic support for Ukraine, honestly, I was confused. Very subjective, what objective criterion can we call? I can't give any. Mathematics is not my advantages. I'm not a pro in that, but still I found something. It may seem surprising, but I will forget to mention in the end that UCMC did some good job. Thank you for the survey, and I think that students, academia, civic activists will definitely read that all and think, oh, these 50 people just wrote some weird things. I was looking for criteria. Maybe a speech given from the UN. Someone who was authorized by the state to give a speech in Ukraine, maybe. It's like, how did we select certain states, okay? When we were scoring, putting ticks, on positions for certain states in the rating. Or maybe someone's parliament gave such a great statement that was so powerful, and other civilized countries had to listen to it. Maybe, yeah? Maybe this became also one of the criteria for us to rate this country. It's not a secret that heads of states, when they act publicly or non-publicly, they can actually encourage some leaders of other states. They can actually encourage them to start thinking about us in a different manner. But I found a criterion. And it may surprise you, and I will just tell nothing about it. So we have a horrible neighbor, okay? And we have the propaganda machine that neighbor is nurturing. A powerful, completely reckless machine that is destroying everything. 140 million of inhabitants in the country were turned into zombies with this machine. And they gave a clue. They gave a hint. Like, the more of evil, the stronger the wave of evil is coming from the Moscow propaganda, the more relevant it is to look at specific country on the globe, which is supporting us. What can I tell you? Anglo-Saxon country. So the definition itself is quite controversial. They don't like the definition. Maybe they're right about it, but it exists. It lives its own life already. Anglo-Saxons, yes. We think first of all of the United Kingdom. We take the picture. Can we take that image? It would be so good to get the image. Who is there? The United Kingdom, okay? So United Kingdom is there. And the first one, Anglo-Saxons, they launched this anti-Moscow, like for hundreds of years. They've actually been opposing it. And we can see on the list the USA. How can we do it without them? Well, where United Kingdom is supporting us internationally, USA is backing them. Of course, my role is to tell you how I see the countries that are in the top 10, adding 5 more. With Anglo-Saxons, it's clear, okay? I don't know who our experts mention other country. I wanted to put Estonia first, but I voted for United Kingdom. So, Baltic states, they all are here. They are in the center, in the very, very core, all three of them. And undoubtful is the fact that Polish are in this top list. It's natural, it's organic. The Polish know very well what are the consequences of Russian domination. Well, I'm trying to use word Russian less, but Moscovian. Okay, if these 3 Baltic states and Poland were on the 3rd step, it would be enough for them to stay, all of them together, and it would be quite natural for them to take that position altogether, collectively. All right. Germany, France. In a couple kilometers from Bucha, we have... I have my summer cottage, a small one, yeah, with a land plot. And first 11 days of full-scale invasion I've spent there. And I am a retired person. I'm an elderly man. Nobody stopped me at the border. I even managed to come to France to my friends. For 8 months, I was receiving the support from French people. I was staying in France, and not specific French people, but their system, their hospitality. I will not offer to put France on the first position, but in our expert evaluations together with Germans, next to Germans, it's quite justified. It has a certain reason. There is a certain reason for it. It seems to me that the trend, if in this survey we analyze trends, it would even go higher. No names. I don't want to propagate and speak of the French president or the chancellor of Germany, just the society. That's what I talk. Civic society of these countries. They are turning their faces to us. I think I'm reaching the 5. Okay, Denmark, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Sweden. You can see these 5 countries are there. So I think, yes, I'm not good at math at all. Of course, I had the best scores in school, but anyway, still, I'm not good at it. If these 3 Baltic states and Polish, if these were taking the 3rd position, I think these 5 countries would fit in the 10. The top 10, and this would be justified. So it's not that I'm saying that this approach is imperfect, but each of these countries, and add Finland, okay? The voice of the country which was despised in Soviet Union as a foreign state, which was considered by Russia as outskirts, and they came there just to entertain themselves. The voice of that country is so loud. If I'm not mistaken, a couple of days ago they said, let them shoot where they want to. Like, this is an approach. That's what I call an attitude. And diplomatic support consists of these actions from the heads of states. And Asia that you mentioned, and where's Japan? The only country, yes, it's not in G7, in this group of 7, and it adequately behaves compared to others in the group. They are the only ones in Asia that allowed themselves to impose sanctions against Russia. Yes, we get the help from so many other countries. And those countries that we even do not recognize as the states. Taiwan or Pakistan, South Korea also helps us. I will not mention Singapore. It's a separate story, and I will not steal your time with that. We pay a lot of attention to China. We don't like China, and it's quite justified. You don't need to love or like countries. We need to evaluate the results of their support and the level of their support. The summer cottage I mentioned, I wrote back then that we shall have to prepare like an indicator of Ukraine's support. A comprehensive. I think this is the way that we finally took. Comprehensive approach to our evaluation of support provided to Ukraine in the toughest hour. And the attitude to the countries, respectively, who supported us, to our supporters. I don't encourage you to have disputes with China, because I know very well that it will give no result. But let's be honest and objective and tell them truth right into their eyes. This will be like a good thing to do. Now and in future. In this survey, we can't evaluate the role of Qatar. For example, Saudi Arabia. A bunch of other countries helping us to liberate our war prisoners and captives, to take them away from these prisons and detention centers in Moscovia. I am afraid to speak the Turkey word, speak of that country, because we can imagine as Mr. Erdogan, who is trying again to launch this corridor, how would he respond if we say, this is not a consistent position, this is a pro-Turkish, deep pro-Turkish position, and sometimes not friendly towards Ukraine, if we say that. And just to finalize, I think that when Moscovia will go back to its historical borders, a small kingdom of Moscovia, the researchers will find out so many facts, like which peoples and how did provide the support to us, which were nurturing the aggressor and supporting the aggressor, if there was any business as usual. Unfortunately, we have many of these still. Thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ambassador. A very detailed analysis. Thank you. I just want to say that the criteria, not all the criteria were said. There was a specific list. In this case, we did not mention the war prisoner exchange, but still I think that, we'll still think it reflects in many aspects the diplomatic support. And one thing, 2022-2024, if expert evaluated it now, the position of Czech President Petr Pavel, an honest opinion, a person who knows the diplomatic situation, what was stated by him about the initiative to provide 800,000 of 155 ammo units, it would put Czech Republic up. So we perceive this as a 2-year picture, okay? Consolidated one. And I would tell you that for me it's not surprising, absolutely, because maybe Canada could be higher, but in the 10, in top 10 we have some limitations. Our experts were listening to UN Security Council meetings, big platforms, big discussions. Representatives of Baltic states did it in the most confident and in the clearest way. In Poland, who initiated the meetings? Like, why the US, the top position, and United Kingdom? There's no Albania. If someone heard the representative of Albania in UN with experience, it was his second time in UNSC. With only these statements in the beginning, we could put like Albania, give a separate category, just for his diplomatic skills and his statements, By the way, Albania opened this airport for the NATO aircraft. That's some food for thought. Thank you for this reflection. Financial economic support, please, Volodymyr, turn that on. Victor, not about that only. We somehow missed it, but it's really important. There's no IMF and EU, but still. Thank you so much, Valeriy. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you. It's like the 10th anniversary. My congratulations to all here in the hall and listening to us. You're doing a very good job, a very useful thing you're doing. And this rating is a contribution in our political gratitude to our partners. Well, I would say that war is about maths. I understand that diplomats say that they don't like maths and they maybe disagree that war is about figures, war is about numbers, it's about maths, so it's about statistics. So when we talk about resources in the war, it's clear why so little time was given to us and why we had so little time to actually overcome that. Because Ukrainian resources and Russia's resources are incomparable, okay? You can't compare that. I mean, military resources, security resources, and defense resources, human resources, financial as well, etc. In 2 years of full-scale war, Russia spent $180 billion. In 2 years of war, Ukraine received support from our partners, reaching approximately 170 billion. Huge part of that was spent just to support our financial institutions, to support the budget processes, to support humanitarian missions, etc. So we don't have the parity even when it comes to military resources, considering that we can compare like 180 billion. On the other hand, we have 170. So if we compare two countries, when I was analyzing the rating, honestly, I really want us next year I really want, in the rating of these financial donors, I want Russia to be in the top of financial donors for us. This sounds paradoxical. It's a paradoxical conclusion, but 300 billion frozen right now in European Union, European banks, these would help us at least to reach some parity, okay? And I do think that now in this specific situation, all the efforts of diplomats, our think tanks and journalists and political experts, we should aim all that resource for these 300 billion to work for Ukraine, Ukraine's benefit. And not to steal your time, I made this table. So when we, well, sometimes quite subjective ratings. We have in Institute of Global Policy, we had this rating of ambassadors within these 3 years, last 3 years. We didn't have it. Some subjective methodology on how to evaluate diplomatic mission effectiveness. And Andriy was one of those ratings, maybe, or even a couple of. So we do speak here about this more public manifestation and, let's say, public gratitude to the countries that we do hear about. But still, it was already mentioned, the top 10 of countries which in the GDP dimension was supporting Ukraine, it's completely different if we take GDP as the core. So we can speak of that phenomenon when, let's say, small states have really big hearts. So if we talk about rating like Estonia, 1.25% of GDP, Latvia, 1.9 GDP, 1.95 Lithuania, then Poland, Slovakia, Denmark, Netherlands, Finland, Bulgaria, and Czech Republic. Okay? So when we express gratitude, and I think that it's logical to say big thank you to those states, of course. That's true. That's completely true. I pass the floor to Andriy Shevchenko instantly. Thank you, Valery. 3 observations. First, I think this rating is clearly showing us the shift of policies in many countries. Something we couldn't expect a couple of years ago to happen, yeah? Germany, France, that is an actual leader right now in restoring the capacities of military industry, the Netherlands. These countries, if we had that survey made 3 years ago, with the question, which support should we rely on, we would never see those countries in the top 10 where they are now. And this shift happened, first of all, because we had the shift of public opinion in the countries. The Netherlands, yeah, like think of them. Remember the referendum story, yeah? How hard for us it was to perceive that opinion back then and what we see now. We learned to fight for hearts, okay? minds and hearts of the public, and it became a powerful factor for defense and security policy to shift in those states. Second observation, can we have humanitarian slide? Yes. Second observation, the map of support of the states basically looks similar to the map of diaspora's activity. And we can say that maybe it's interrelated. Where diaspora is active, it creates a pressure on government. On the other hand, diaspora works actively where certain governmental responses. It's a cycle. It's a closed cycle. We have interesting trends there. On February 24th, the World Congress of Ukrainians organized a big campaign to support Ukraine. More than 1,000 events were registered in interactive map. 750 places in dozens of countries. This is a record, a world record, yeah? But if you take this map, the majority of the lights is not in Northern America, like we expected 10 years ago, but in Europe, a colossal number of lights. This is new reality. Northern Europe, in the last 2 years, we've established really powerful Ukrainian communities and organizations, paving their ways to governments, to their parliaments. And this is new reality. And in this new reality, new diaspora works differently from Ukraine. And it affects the decisions made. Third observation. It seems to me that it's so interesting to have this subject or supporter block. It shows a couple of important things. We learned to notice that specific people make the decisions, not just the heads of states. Landsbergis, Austin, Borrell. Sometimes these are not the first people, let's say, the first violence. It shows a couple of things. Fair recognition of specific subjects' roles. Estonia was mentioned. Hanna Poker, Minister of Defense of Estonia. He managed to convince the EU to provide 1 million of ammo units, of cartridges. The initiative of one person, one country managed to catalyze this important process on the continent. It shows us that we learned to work on a personal level. The level of knowledge and how the decisions are made in other countries is growing, and these are important new assets that we need to learn how to use those, of course. I'm also now an advisor of USAID program, Next Generation Rada. It's really interesting to see the parliaments. Now Ukrainian MPs don't even know the names of their colleagues and peers. They talk to their colleagues from other parliaments in WhatsApp and other messengers. Ukrainian diplomacy, classic diplomacy, parliamentary diplomacy, knows how to work at personal level, individual level. We know who are our allies. We know how to gather coalitions, and we can engage people we need in those coalitions. It's an important thing. It's so good that we have this block in the survey. I'm just saying this as a citizen. My congrats to the UCMC team. This is you started making history 10 years ago. So this is the point of maximum effectiveness. Back then, 10 years ago, you had that maximum effectiveness, and thank you for keeping up to that level. Thank you, Andriy. Some of those people already are working with you. So my colleagues are present in the MOD and other places. I just want to say one thing. Objectively, you can see that experts didn't analyze the scope of money, but number of citizens who are taken care of abroad. Poland, Czech Republic, Germany. I know personally the situation with many friends, like Pavlo Sultanskyi spoke of France. Czech Republic didn't talk much of that, but Czech did a lot. Okay, so not the quantity, but the quality of the support, I should mark. So it's pretty logical. If we take the monetary equivalent, yes, US, Canada could go higher, because the program and the package that we expect from the US, 450 million just to support not the refugees, but U4U is the program to support special programs for the period. I don't think that these are refugees. People who will return to Ukraine, part of them definitely will, and The support that is extended by the US for 2 years. European countries, you can see it's completed there, but US is still doing it despite those turbulences in Mexican border. Definitely 2 years, U4U, the status is still extended. And this is $500 million in the package. It's a huge contribution, just like Canada. The program that called QUED. So, I think this all is pretty logical. Not with a focus on money allocated as humanitarian assistance to Ukraine, to IDP, but this external component is clearly seen. A small comment. I promised myself not to evaluate the ratings, but still I will violate that. Another country could be there, Moldova. They are quite underestimated. What they did in the first weeks, the country had they didn't have resources. International organizations couldn't do it in a timely manner. When they accepted 1.5 million of Ukrainians in this tiny territory, they had to look for resources out of nowhere. And I think a good job was done back then. I should add that European Union provided big opportunities for it later. Yes, international money started working on May. The discussion is getting deeper. So let's jump to the topic, which is economic, and we don't have it, but its importance is huge.
Окремої сфери.
We thought of specific sector, but taking 10 experts independent experts in energy sector, I couldn't find that team. But 2 of these we have in this room. Prominent. Please, give the mic to Volodymyr, please. Razumkov Center. A brief comment. Thank you so much, Valery. I will not steal a lot of your time. I just want to say that it's clear that energy sector is a front line. It's another front line. Without energy, it's the foundation of the economy. Yes, national economy. Without proper functioning of economics, you actually can't manage to supply. You can't support the army. If I may ask you to stand right there, because, we're being watched. So I want people to see your face. So, of course, undoubtedly, the support to energy sector from our partners was really needed back then, and it was really powerful. We managed to overcome the struggle when Russia realized the role of energy sector in the war, and they wanted to destroy the energy sector and therefore destroy the economy, and to aggravate the situation at the front line. Our partners truly helped us. Do you remember the energy coalition gathered by Macron in 2022, President of France? There were so many countries in the coalition, and a lot of resources were allocated. They did not only share money with us, okay? Back then, when we had the infrastructure objects shelled since October 2022, primarily, we did not need money, first and foremost, but all that specific equipment for energy objects, for these to operate, to generate electricity and distribute it. And the equipment was provided from many countries. I would love to distinguish, of course, the USAID program. They did provide a lot of support to us and still supporting us. Also, I have to mention France and the Netherlands and Germany, Poland and other countries of the European Union, and huge support provided also by other countries, non-European countries. Japan provided support to us as well, and South Korea, excuse me. So we are fully supplied with all necessary, including emergency equipment. Therefore, we can replace all the elements and parts, even if serious shelling is taking place, because the enemy is still considering the opportunity to destroy our system. In 2024, they maybe picked another strategy. They had massive attacks previously in 2022. You know that practically every station got some damage from UAVs or missiles. In 2022, 2023. In 2024, they picked the strategy of targeted attacks. They are aiming at energy infrastructure close to the front line. Also in Dnipro, because Dnipro city is an industrial center. We have more than 22% of GDP generated in this place. And they are trying to destroy the substations, which provide energy to big industrial objects. I do think that still it's not time to relax. We managed to live through this winter, and unfortunately the war is not over tomorrow. And nobody even knows how long will it take. So we have to be prepared now. We have already need to start preparing for a new winter season, and still cooperating with our partners to get any possible support for us to protect our energy infrastructure and the network. And this is really an important task, and of course I would like to note that a lot of air defense equipment was provided for energy objects as well, and I guess thanks to it we don't have these serious problems today. I'd like to express gratitude to Andriy. He is he's already leaving. Thank you, Andriy. And I'd like to listen about the energy sector. Thank you, Mikhailo, for sharing with us today. Well, congratulations with the anniversary. And many more years to come. So, I'll continue with my colleague's speech. He concentrated on electric energy infrastructure. Energy sector is not just about electricity, right? As they say, if there is fuel in aircrafts and tanks, it's not a guarantee of victory, but if there's no fuel, it's a guarantee of defeat, definitely. And we have to remember that within the first months of hostilities, if you all do remember, they destroyed our fuel-containing objects. Well, it's a classical military strategy to destroy the energy resources of the opponent, and that is how to get certain advantage on the battlefield.
Стало питання.
And back then we had this issue, how to reorient the whole system to for the military purposes, because we had all these bases burning. Poland helped us back then, of course, Bulgaria, underestimated, by the way. Within the first months of war, when we had the fuel crisis, March, April 2022, May 2022, in mid-July, we managed to stabilize it. Well, thanks to Poland, Bulgaria, the Netherlands, we had supplies from funds of the European Union, European Commission, and NATO. Of course, we have to note also the role of the US. We started getting American diesel. Yeah, so we've established the supply chain and, of course, cooperation with Poland. For quite a long time, this was the key logistic hub for us to deliver the fuel. It was really important. We even managed to they even procured the reservoir capacity for temporary storage of big volumes of fuel. So these countries, therefore, and their leaders played a very important role for our aircrafts and tanks to be fully fueled. Of course, the railway transport, also light motor vehicles, and even average citizens manage to get full access to fuel without problems. Another important thing coming to electric energy issue and gas supplies, well, that what was important for the winter season 2022-2023, emergency supplies of electric energy when we had deficit in the grid because our objects and substations were destroyed or damaged. Both of these war winters, we definitely had mild temperature regime, but still this emergency supply from our neighbors, we express gratitude for it. Less for Poland because they had deficits as well, and we helped them recently, by the way. Slovakia, Hungary, and Romania. And they helped us a lot in that sense, yeah, specific companies. For the gas supply, another important thing, the import, 2 years ago, the import was really minuscule, let's say. We managed to withstand with our own resources and with what we had in our underground storages. But still, the existence of these pipeline capacities, this was our, let's say, insurance. We really were confident that we'll manage to stay alive, to survive. Not just survive, but we will be able to restore the resource, to strengthen our resilience for the future period. Without any doubts, when we mention and express our gratitudes to our partners and supporters, as my colleague said, the USAID program, they funded us and helped us procure generators. It played a role, of course, but also it was a period when we were confused, like what we needed, generators. Not only generators were needed, but other type of equipment. Now we already know which algorithms are to be put in place for cooperation, and within these 2 years, I think this cooperation that we've established will stay important. And now what's interesting, and our center is taking part in 2 projects with our Polish and Romanian colleagues. Today, we even share our experience, like how we managed to survive, how we managed to stay resilient. I mean, our energy infrastructure. We are sharing this with our neighbors because the situation is like that. We have some good news from the Black Sea today. So we managed to push the Black Sea fleet to Eastern Bloc. And look how actively our neighbors talking now about the Black Sea to be studied for gas extraction. Like a year ago, if we compare, it was very vague and risky, but now they even are considering this opportunity, what Ukrainians can do. And Ukrainian experience is of huge importance from the standpoint of air defense, how to protect infrastructure, both the inland and water infrastructure, where we can even give some advice how it can be done in a better way. That is how, yeah, thank you so much. This is definitely something that is a good final spot to be made. Okay, there is no time to mention each of the leaders of top 5, and those already mentioned here, like from the big list, not from the short one. I'll just say one thing. This list wasn't surprising for us at all, you know. Boris Johnson, he is already a big part of the reality, and Mr. Biden, Ms. von der Leyen, leaders, powerful leaders. Duda and Scholz, again, we covered 2 years, because if we speak briefly, maybe now, honestly, it would seem to me that these leaders, these subjects, I hope they will have have more confident opinions and to... It's my call to Olaf Scholz that I'm sending. Can't you do that as well? His leadership may actually define a lot, just like Mr. Scholz. Later, there will be an opportunity to have this in paper, and those leaders mentioned on the list. Prime ministers, presidents, Ukrainians who gave their names, like this was an open issue, and I guess we didn't miss anyone. Yeah, we've covered everyone. We will express our gratitude to political leaders, international leaders. We can't fight Russia without their support, of course, because leaders set the tone. Leaders see the perspective. We really want them to be decisive and brave. And what we really want to have, a defeated Russia, and we want to ensure peace in broad geopolitical space. Okay, I'm grateful to my colleagues for your work on the project. Thank you for your expert contribution. I'm grateful to all the experts. You spoke, it was really easy to fill it out, but one of the former ministers told me I tried 3 times and I still cannot fill it out. So, and those we had today on the stage next to me, Victor, Alexander, Pavlo, Andriy, big gratitude to you. You personally joined our discussion and you shared this pleasure with us. Thank you for your congratulations to your CMC or UMC, as we'll have it after the victory. And my gratitude to colleagues from the Press Center who helped us today to make this happen. Big thank you to all the embassies and missions we have today with us as well, and those who listened about other states and expressed their solidarity with us and with the state, with Ukrainians, fighting on behalf of all of Europe. Okay, we'll think of another rating in the year, but definitely we'd like to have this victory rating. The contribution of each country in the victory. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. My personal thank you. I'm grateful to our defenders, of course, who give us a chance today to discuss these important things. And together we're moving to victory. Glory to Ukraine and glory to